Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back. We are in the garage doing a little garage video. The KTM, it is finally time to tear down the 500. I figured we'd just go ahead and get it done this week because next week starts July and I got like 3 or 4 rides planned in July and a lot of them will be the 500. So I figured we'd go ahead and get that bad boy rebuilt. That way we got some time to get some break-in hours on it and get those new rings seated well. That way she's ready to rip. So without further ado, we're gonna get this thing on the lift and start tearing her apart. Let's get it. All right, we got her up on the lift, strapped down, ready to start tearing down. Now I'm not gonna walk you guys through every single step. The seat's gotta come off, the gas tank, the side plastics. That way we can access the top end. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw you guys in time-lapse mode real quick and then we'll be back with you. All right, we got that tank and plastics out of our way. We can get to the motor. First things first, let's go ahead and disconnect this battery. All right, we're gonna go ahead and drain the fluids out of this motor. I'll go ahead and do the coolant first. It is right here on the water pump side. You got a bolt right here on the bottom of your water pump. Also, if you wanna go ahead and pop your cap off of the top of your radiator, that will let it flow a little quicker. Make sure you got a drain pan handy. It's just shooting out. Then we come to the other side and we're gonna go ahead and drain this oil. All right, so before you pull this valve cover off, go ahead and like take a rag and clean up all these wires and like knock all the dirt out of here, so that way when you take this off, a bunch of dirt doesn't fall down into your motor. But once you got all this area cleaned up, go ahead and take your 10mm and take these 4 valve cover bolts off. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and take this stator cover off. That way we can get this motor set to top dead center, and then I'll show you guys how to lock the motor at top dead center. So when setting this motor to top dead center, there's a little dot right here on the cam sprocket. You'll want to turn the motor over all the way around till it gets up top dead center, just like that. And then if you come over to the clutch side of the motor, there's a bolt with a thick washer behind it. If you remove this bolt, remove the washer, put the bolt back in, it actually locks down a spot in the crank. And it's nice to do that just to keep everything nice and locked down. That way when you're checking the valves, nothing moves. So before we go any further, I'm gonna go ahead and check these exhaust valves and intake valves, write all the specs down. That way when we reinstall, we can figure out if we need different size shims.
Day 2.
All right, it's a new day. We got all of the valve clearances checked and wrote down, and we're ready to start pulling this motor apart. We're gonna start by taking the timing chain tensioner off. And then to check to make sure this is still good, take this plunger and push on it, and as long as it doesn't go in, you're good. So to reset this thing, there's a little tab right there on top. You push that down, then you can push that plunger all the way in. This is ready to go back in. It just needs a new gasket. Now that we got that off, timing chain's loose, we need to go ahead and remove the cam. There is a bolt right here on the back side that is holding this retainer clip in. We'll remove that bolt, slide this retainer clip up, and the camshaft should slide out. Now we're gonna come over to this side, remove the rockers, take off these 2 caps. Don't forget the little rubber washers, sometimes they get stuck behind. Now we got these caps off, these are ready to be pulled. We just gotta take off these 4 bolts on top. Now also keep in mind which side you pull these out of and which way they pull them out of. This one has a dot that's facing up, so make sure that goes back how it came. Pull them out, you can take a bolt, thread it in there. I don't know exactly what size it is, but I just take a pick, 90-degree pick, grab like the first couple threads, and just lightly pull out. It comes out pretty easy. Again, make sure you pay attention which way this came out. We got those rocker arms out of there. We can go ahead and remove these shims. Alright, now that we have those shims out of there, we can go ahead and finish taking this head off. We just got to crack all 4 of these head bolts loose, and we'll do that in a crisscross pattern. So the head's pretty much free. There is still a few things holding the head on. I'm not going to bore you guys with a bunch of that, so we'll just put it in time lapse, and I'll go ahead and remove all this stuff. Alright, now that we got a clean rag shoved down in the motor around the piston, we can remove that circlip holding the piston on right in there. You put the towel in there because those things spring out sometimes and fling out and you lose control of them. And that's the last place you want that thing going, is the bottom of your motor. These KTM ones can be kind of a pain in the butt to get out. They're really stiff. So there's a few things you'll want to check out once you get all this apart. You want to check the play up and down in this rod. You just want to move it up and down and see if there's any play at all in it. This one's tight as can be. Another thing you'll want to check is the gap in between the connecting rod and the crank. Take your feeler gauge and stick it down in there. I do believe in the manual it says that the clearance cannot exceed 0.45 millimeters. So I went ahead and took my 0.457 millimeter feeler gauge, stuck it down in there. It didn't fit, and then I went ahead and downstepped it to a 0.432 millimeter. It didn't fit as well, so as long as those two didn't fit in there, we're still all in spec and we're good to go. Also, you'll want to check these little roller bearings for flat spots. You want to make sure these are all round. Make sure none of the casing around the edges are cracked. You'll also want to check these inside ones as well.
1 week later.
All right, we got the cylinder and the head back from the machine shop. I don't know if you guys knew what the cylinder looked like before, but it didn't look bad. There was still some good cross hatching in there. You could just definitely tell that there was miles on it. My guy went ahead and threw a hone through this and cleaned it up real nice. He also cleaned up the head for me, and he also put the new valve seals in, which actually, here are the old ones. This right here is actually the main reason that the bike was smoking and the main reason why I started all this shenanigans. So we can actually go ahead and get our new piston, get the rings on this guy, get them all set in orientation, get it stuck down in the cylinder, and go ahead and start putting this bike back together. And also don't forget about this little guy that goes right here by the timing chain, and don't tighten it up all the way until you get the head torqued. We are going to torque these head bolts starting off at 7.4 foot-pounds, and we're going to jump around in a crisscross pattern. .1 foot-pounds. Alright, and the last torque is 36.9 foot-pounds. This little guy right here gets torqued to 7.4. So when you put your cam back in, you want to make sure that dot is right back up top where it was when you took it apart. And if it's off a few links, just kind of pull the cam out and rotate it a little bit and then put it back in the chain like I was doing. Once you get it up top, go ahead and put your retainer on. It gets torqued to 7.4 foot-pounds. Alright, after about 20 minutes of some math, I think I finally figured out what shims we're gonna run. I'm gonna go ahead and pop them in. These are the shims from Hot Cams. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the rockers in and get all that dialed in, and then check the valve clearance to see what it is. So what we're going to be doing is setting these rocker arm clearances and then torquing these bolts down. These two bolts get torqued down to 11.1 foot-pounds. Our rocker arm clearance is 0.1 millimeters. Get in that gap there where the rocker arm meets the other side. Push the rocker arm over till it's nice and snug. Go ahead and throw these cap bolts on, and we'll go ahead and torque these caps to 7.4 foot-pounds. Go ahead and throw this timing chain tensioner on. Go ahead and throw on a fresh gasket. So the two mounting bolts are 7.4 foot-pounds. Alright, then we'll put the spring in here, and this gets torqued to 5.9 foot-pounds. Now that we got everything together back up top, and go ahead and put the washer back on this bolt. Go ahead and tighten this guy back down. Alright guys, she is all back together. I'm not gonna do a start video tonight, it's super late. I still gotta get oil tomorrow and coolant. But other than that, she's all back together. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Alright guys, it is a new day. We got fresh oil in her and fresh coolant. And she is back in action. I just took it on like a 10-minute test ride and everything went great. And that's one heat cycle. I'll probably do that like maybe 1 or 2 more times and then she's ready to rip. I'm actually gonna be taking this to Cincinnati for the ride tonight, so she's gonna get broken for sure tonight. KTM 500 rebuild, success.
Bye, have a great time.